My name is Cora Bennett, and at 33 years old, I experienced the ultimate betrayal. My own mother and father sold my home behind my back. Just 3 weeks before my younger sister, Natalie, was scheduled to walk down the aisle, I received a phone call that completely obliterated my understanding of my own family. My parents were actually giggling on the other end of the line as they thanked me for my generous wedding gift. Without ever saying a word to me, they had forged my signature, liquidated the condo I had spent 9 grueling years saving for, and funneled every penny into Natalie's lavish, $120,000 dream wedding. They did not ask for a dime, they simply stole it. But shockingly, that was not even the most devastating revelation. The absolute worst part was discovering that my sister had been secretly stealing the credit for a massive financial sacrifice I had been making for 5 straight years. Before I dive into the absolute chaos of what happened next, do me a quick favor, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, but only if you are truly invested in this story. Also, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. To truly understand why this specific betrayal shattered something deep inside of me, I have to rewind the clock. In the Bennett household, my younger sister, Natalie, was the undisputed center of the solar system, and I was merely a satellite meant to revolve around her. Growing up, you learned your role very quickly. Natalie was the baby of the family. She was 5 years younger than me, effortlessly charismatic, and naturally commanded the attention of whatever room she walked into. It was not that my parents explicitly stated they loved her more, they just had wildly different standards for the two of us. For Natalie, the universe was meant to be a cushioned, comfortable place. For me, life was a series of obstacles designed to build character. I still remember when we were kids, and both of us expressed a strong desire to learn the piano. I was 11 years old, and Natalie was 6. Without hesitation, my mother enrolled Natalie in private sessions with a neighborhood teacher, dropping $50 a week for Saturday morning classes. What about me? I asked, hopeful. My mother did not even pause from balancing her checkbook. Cora, you are perfectly old enough to teach yourself. Go look up some tutorials online. You are so much more resourceful than your sister. I can vividly recall standing in the hallway, watching my little sister skip out the front door for her very first lesson, hugging a brand new music book to her chest. I ended up tapping out basic melodies on a dusty, discarded keyboard in my room. Not a single person ever acknowledged it. That dynamic set the stage for our entire lives. When I eagerly wanted to join my middle school choir, I was flatly told the family budget could not cover the uniform. Yet, a mere 6 weeks later, Natalie was gifted a stunning, $300 custom costume for her ballet recital. The one single time I dared to voice how unfair this felt, my father pulled me aside and gave me that heavy, disappointed stare I would come to memorize. Cora, please do not be selfish, he sighed. Your sister is delicate. She requires a softer touch. You have always been our strong one. You can handle things she cannot. And so, I adapted. I mastered the art of being strong. I trained myself to stop asking for things. I realized that the moment I advocated for my own needs, I was instantly labeled as the difficult child, the resentful sibling, the girl who simply refused to celebrate her sister's joy. Looking back now with perfect clarity, I see that they had been conditioning me my entire life to accept the massive violation they were about to commit. Naturally, this unequal treatment did not magically disappear when we reached adulthood. It only intensified. When I graduated from university, magna cum laude, no less, and the very first person in our family lineage to earn a graduate degree, my parents were nowhere to be found in the audience. They claimed they had forgotten to book their plane tickets. In reality, they were completely consumed with helping Natalie move into a brand new apartment across town, a lease they had happily co-signed because her credit score was abysmal. We will do a nice dinner when you come back for the holidays, my mother casually promised over the phone, her voice sounding incredibly distracted. Natalie really needs our hands-on help right now. So, I proudly walked across that graduation stage completely alone. The only photos I have in my cap and gown were taken by my college roommate's parents. Fast forward 9 years. I finally purchased my very own condo. I did not have a cosigner. I did not ask for a loan. It was the result of agonizing 70-hour work weeks, eating cheap leftovers from Tupperware, and treating my savings account like an impenetrable vault. The afternoon the real estate agent handed me my keys, I enthusiastically called my parents to announce the milestone. My father's immediate reaction? "Well, that is nice, sweetheart. Hey, does the place have an extra bedroom? Natalie might need somewhere to crash for a bit while she gets her life sorted out. You know how she is with her finances." There was no congratulations, Cora. No, we are so incredibly proud of your hard work. The only thought that crossed his mind was how my achievement could benefit Natalie. You are just so wonderfully self-sufficient, Cora. My mother would always chime in. I used to actually believe she meant it as high praise. You never need us hovering over you the way Natalie does. What she really meant was, we are entirely absolved from having to care for you. You will figure it out on your own. And I always did. Surviving was my superpower. I simply abandoned the hope that they would ever treat me differently. So, when my parents suggested they hold onto my sensitive condo documents in their secure, fireproof lockbox at their house, I agreed without a shadow of suspicion. They were my mom and dad after all. I believed my paperwork was safe. That blind trust would eventually cost me a price I could not even fathom. For years prior to Natalie's lavish wedding, my parents made a catastrophic financial blunder. My dad had always harbored delusions of grandeur about being a savvy investor. When an old college buddy approached him with a guaranteed real estate venture out in Arizona, my dad went all in. He drained their retirement funds, took out all the equity in their family home, and handed over every last cent they possessed. Naturally, the entire project imploded within 8 months. The shady developers took the money and ran. My parents were suddenly staring down the barrel of a massive mortgage they had zero ability to pay, resulting in a terrifying foreclosure warning stapled to their front door. I only discovered this crisis by pure luck. The bank accidentally mailed a final past due notice to my condo instead of theirs due to a clerical error on their account. That very same afternoon, I immediately contacted the bank and quietly set up a recurring auto draft directly from my own checking account. It was $2,400 every single month. I never breathed a word of this to my parents. I could not bear the thought of humiliating them. I desperately wanted to avoid those agonizingly awkward family dinners filled with empty promises of repayment. I just stepped up and fixed the problem exactly as I always had. But what I remained blissfully unaware of was that Natalie had accidentally uncovered my secret. A few months into my payments, she came over to borrow my laptop for a work project. While browsing, she undoubtedly stumbled upon the email receipt from the mortgage lender, the exact confirmation showing my full name, the exact dollar amount, and the destination account. Instead of showing an ounce of gratitude or privately urging our parents to thank me, Natalie hatched a wildly different plan. She went straight to mom and dad and boldly claimed that she was the anonymous benefactor saving their home. I have been funneling my salary into the mortgage, she apparently told them with a straight face. It is the absolute least I can do for you guys. You have done so much for me. My parents were completely overwhelmed with emotion. They wept over their youngest daughter's incredible maturity and selflessness. They boasted about her amazing generosity to the entire church congregation and every neighbor on their street. My mother posted about it on social media, calling Natalie her guardian angel. All the while, I continued sacrificing $2,400 every 30 days, watching a huge chunk of my hard-earned money vanish, completely oblivious to the fact that someone else was wearing my halo. Then, Natalie got engaged, and the family dynamic shifted into overdrive. Her fiancé, Spencer Ashford, was the walking embodiment of my parents' ultimate fantasy. He was classically handsome, highly educated, and above all else, extraordinarily wealthy. Spencer's father was the senior partner at the county's most prestigious law firm. His mother was the president of several elite charity organizations. The Ashford family practically lived at their summer estate in the Hamptons and spent winters skiing in Aspen. The very first evening Natalie brought Spencer over for dinner, I watched my parents undergo a bizarre metamorphosis. My dad suddenly carried himself differently. My mom dusted off the expensive china they never used. They chuckled far too loudly at Spencer's mediocre jokes and passionately agreed with political opinions I knew for a fact they did not actually share. "This union is going to elevate our entire family," my dad whispered to me in the kitchen later that night, a frantic gleam in his eye that felt dangerously close to desperation. "Natalie's new life is going to be our new life. The Ashfords are connected to everyone who matters." The wedding planning commenced at a frantic pace. This was not going to be a humble backyard affair. They wanted an event worthy of the Ashford name. They booked the grand ballroom at the local country club. They finalized a guest list of 250 elite attendees. They secured a 14-piece classical ensemble and ordered exotic floral arrangements directly from the Netherlands. The grand total? A staggering $120,000. Money they absolutely did not possess. "Natalie simply cannot foot the bill for both our monthly mortgage and a wedding of this caliber," I overheard my mom whispering frantically to my dad one evening. "She is already bleeding herself dry for us. We have to figure out an alternative. The Ashfords are expecting something spectacular." I remember freezing in the hallway, entirely perplexed. Natalie was a junior PR coordinator, bringing home roughly $3,500 a month after taxes. How on earth did they think she was covering a $2,400 mortgage payment? But I quickly shook off the confusion. Perhaps she had gotten a massive promotion I did not know about, or maybe Spencer was secretly bankrolling her. I had no clue that my baby sister had constructed a monumental lie, and that my parents had ultimately decided I was going to be the one to fund it. That very week, without a word to me, my mother began surfing online real estate platforms, estimating the market value of my specific condo. My condo was not merely a roof over my head. It was the physical manifestation of my independence. 9 years of my blood, sweat, and tears were baked into those walls. Every corporate ladder I climbed, every tropical vacation I passed on, every Friday night I stayed, and instead of going out to bars, it was all embedded in those 900 square feet. I absolutely cherished my beautiful bay window that overlooked the city park. I had spent weeks painting my bedroom walls a calming sage green to make waking up a little easier. I had pinched pennies for 8 straight months to afford my living room couch. The kitchen was tiny, but it was 100% mine. The solitude was mine. For the first time in my existence, I had carved out a corner of the world where I was not just an afterthought. If I allowed them to get away with this, I would not just be losing a piece of real estate. I would be erasing 9 years of my life. I would forfeit roughly $210,000 in hard-earned equity. I would lose the only tangible evidence that Cora Bennett was the lead character in her own life, not just an extra in Natalie's. And if I stayed quiet, Natalie would permanently cement her status as the family savior. My parents would forever worship her fake generosity, while I continued quietly paying their bills in the shadows. A profound shift occurred inside my chest. My parents had not bothered to ask me because it never crossed their minds that I would dare to tell them no. They had spent 33 years conditioning me to bend, to shrink, and to quietly absorb their demands. And honestly, I had let them. But this crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. This was no longer about taking the high road. This was about proving I actually existed. Being the silent child does not obligate you to be the sacrificial lamb. Right then and there, I made a vow. For the first time in my 33 years, I was going to wage war, and I was going to drag every single skeleton out of their closets. The infamous phone call took place on a mundane Tuesday. I was sitting at my office desk, highlighting quarterly revenue reports, when my mother's contact photo illuminated my cell phone. "Hey, honey." She was actually giggling. I could hear my dad in the background, chuckling warmly. "We just wanted to call and give you a massive thank you for your incredibly generous wedding present." I slowly placed my highlighter on the desk. "What present?" "Your condo, sweetheart. We went ahead and sold it. We got a spectacular price for it, too. An all-cash buyer. Is not that just a massive relief? Now you do not have to worry about property taxes or maintenance." The office around me seemed to tilt on its axis. The blood drained from my fingertips. You did what?" "Oh, come on. We knew you would be completely on board." Her tone was disgustingly warm, totally void of guilt. You have always been such a giving person, and now Natalie's reception is going to be flawless. Do you know the florist alone is costing $15,000? But it will be worth it for the photos. I never agreed to this, I interrupted, my voice trembling. There was a heavy pause on the line. Then, my father's voice chimed in, dripping with that condescending authority I despised. Cora, stop being so theatrical. It is just a piece of real estate. You can always buy another one. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for your sister. It is my piece of real estate. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. We are a family, my mother interjected, employing that sickeningly patient tone you would use to explain basic math to a toddler. What is yours is ours. That is how a family operates. Besides, you are so incredibly capable. You will easily bounce back and find a new place. You always do. Capable. That was their favorite code word for disposable. My throat felt like it was swelling shut. How did you even pull this off? I never signed a single legal document. You do not have power of attorney over me. Dead silence. Then, my dad awkwardly cleared his throat. We handled the administrative side of things. You gave us your official paperwork to hold in the lockbox years ago, remember? We just facilitated the process on your behalf. The signature was a formality. Facilitated. That was a really cute word for felony forgery. They had committed massive financial fraud, and they were treating it like a funny family anecdote. The final closing date is next week, my mom chirped, trying to lighten the mood again. We truly appreciate this, Cora. We always knew you were the dependable one. The money is already earmarked for the venue deposit. I ended the call without uttering another syllable. They were literally still laughing as I tapped the red button. They were completely oblivious to the hurricane they had just invited into their lives. My best friend, Jordan Reeves, had been my rock since our freshman year of college. Conveniently, she was also one of the most ruthless and brilliant real estate attorneys in our district. I called her immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. They did what? Her voice dropped an entire octave when I quickly explained the situation. They liquidated your property and forged your signature? They think this is a done deal. Give me exactly 60 minutes. Do not talk to anyone. Do not answer their calls. 47 minutes later, my phone rang. The sale is entirely unfinalized, Jordan announced, her voice razor sharp. They drafted a purchase agreement, but the final closing has not occurred. The title agency actually put a hold on the file because your signature looked deeply inconsistent with their internal records. Someone flagged it as suspicious. A massive wave of relief washed over my body, immediately chased by a fiery, blinding rage. So, the sale is not legally binding. It is not going through. Cora, it is textbook fraud. Forgery. Identity theft. You have every right to pursue heavy criminal charges right this second. The buyer is also furious because he thought he was getting a clean deal. I stared blankly at my office wall, processing the reality of sending my own parents to a state penitentiary. The weight of that possibility pressed down on my chest. But there is another piece to this puzzle, Jordan continued, her tone shifting into something far more serious. I have been digging into your family's recent financial history to see why they are so desperate. Your mom was apparently boasting to a mutual acquaintance at the supermarket about how Natalie has been solely funding their mortgage for years. She called her an absolute saint. She said Natalie has been paying the house note since they hit hard times. The temperature in my office plummeted. Wait. Repeat that. She specifically said Natalie has been covering their house payments. Has been doing it for years. Your mother was bragging about it to anyone who would listen. She even posted about it in a neighborhood Facebook group. My hands began to violently tremble. Jordan, that is physically impossible. I am the one paying that mortgage. I have been paying it for 56 months. Every single withdrawal comes straight from my personal checking account. My name is on every transfer. My signature is on every authorization. A deafening silence stretched across the phone line. Cora, are you absolutely positive? Could there be any overlap? I have a mountain of bank statements. I have every single automated confirmation email. It is my routing number. It is my signature. I have been doing this for nearly 5 years without telling anyone. Another pause, this one thick with terrible realization. Then your little sister has been feeding them a massive lie. She hijacked your financial sacrifice. She has been stealing your credit for years. My mind was reeling. Natalie had not just kept her mouth shut. She had actively, intentionally woven a narrative where she was the hero, using my drained bank account as her proof. She had built her entire reputation in the family on my sacrifice. I need you to pull every single record, I told Jordan, my voice dropping to a harsh whisper. And I need to go look my sister in the eyes. I need to hear her say it. I drove straight to my childhood home that evening. I did not call ahead. I just needed to stand in their presence and verify the madness for myself. My mother swung the front door open, practically glowing with wedding excitement. Cora, what a lovely surprise. Your father and I were just stressing over the reception seating chart. Come in, come in. I walked past her into the kitchen. My dad was buried under a mountain of floral invoices and catering menus. The kitchen table was covered in swatches of fabric and sample invitations. Why did not you have the decency to ask me? I kept my voice eerily flat. I had mentally rehearsed this calm demeanor the entire drive over. My mom's bright smile twitched. Ask you what, sweetheart? About my condo. About forging my name to steal a property you do not own. About committing multiple felonies. My dad swatted the air as if I were a mild annoyance. Cora, we already discussed this on the phone. The deal is in motion. The Ashford wedding is in 21 days. Please do not turn this into a dramatic ordeal. We are under enough stress as it is. I slowly pulled out a kitchen chair and sat across from him, my hands folded on the table. Just out of pure curiosity, I said, leaning forward. How exactly has Natalie been managing a $2,400 monthly mortgage payment on a junior PR salary? The math does not work. My mother's face instantly softened with overwhelming pride. Oh, she has been an absolute angel. Over $2,000 every single month, never misses a beat. She has been sacrificing so much for us. She is truly the most selfless young woman. We are so lucky to have her. Fascinating, I replied, crossing my arms. And she explicitly claimed this to your faces? She told you she was the one paying. Well, yes, of course she did. She sat us down and explained everything. She said she wanted to take care of us after all we had done for her. Are my ears burning? Natalie suddenly strolled into the kitchen, still dressed in her chic office attire, her hair perfectly styled. She locked eyes with me, and for a fraction of a second, the mask slipped. I saw the terrifying flash of recognition. She knew why I was asking. The color drained from her face for just an instant before she recovered. But then, she plastered on that identical, sickeningly sweet smile she had used to manipulate the world since kindergarten. Yep, she purred smoothly. I have been handling the house payments. It is simply what a good family member does. I wanted to give back after everything you guys did for me. She stared directly into my soul as the lie fell from her lips. She fully realized that I possessed the truth, and she genuinely did not care. Her eyes dared me to say something. Look, Cora, it is my bridal season, Natalie snapped, her tone suddenly turning venomous when she saw I was not backing down. For once in your entire life, can you just let something be about me? Is that too much to ask? Do you have to make everything about your feelings? I pushed my chair back and stood up. My mother started rambling nervously about the importance of familial gratitude and not rocking the boat, but everything she said sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. I turned on my heel and walked out the front door without granting them another syllable. But my war was just beginning. Hey guys, quick pause before we get into the explosive wedding day details. Have you ever had a coworker, a friend, or a sibling totally steal the credit for your hard work? If you know the exact burning rage I was feeling in that kitchen, drop a massive yes down in the comments below. And if you are absolutely hooked on this drama, make sure to hit subscribe, because the stunt I pulled at the reception, well, let us just say Natalie was not the only one left speechless. The next morning, Jordan and I convened in her fancy law firm's conference room. The mahogany table was completely buried under an avalanche of highlighted, heavily annotated financial documents. Jordan had pulled everything from my bank, my email records, and the title company. 56 consecutive transfers, Jordan said, tapping a perfectly manicured finger on the stack. Every single one originating from your personal checking account, your specific routing number, your legal name, the dates, the amounts, the reference numbers. It is absolutely undeniable. We have a chain of evidence that would hold up in any court. I stared blankly at the staggering total highlighted at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Over $134,000. Ironically, it was close to the exact amount my parents were desperately trying to steal from my condo equity to fund the wedding. I ran a background check on Natalie's firm, Jordan continued. An entry-level PR coordinator at her tier takes home roughly $3,800 a month pre-tax. After taxes, she is lucky to see $3,000. To afford this mortgage, she would have had to surrender almost 80% of her monthly take-home pay. She could not afford a studio apartment, let alone your parents' estate. The math is impossible. She knew the exact dollar amount down to the cent, I whispered, the sickening puzzle pieces locking into place. She hijacked my laptop a few years ago. She absolutely saw my bank receipts. That is how she fabricated such a convincing lie. She knew exactly what to claim because she had the receipts in front of her. Jordan nodded grimly. She weaponized your own receipts to construct a fake reality where she is Mother Teresa. She has been running this con for 4 years. Longer than some marriages last. I picked up the top statement. Cora Bennett was printed loudly and proudly at the header. Not Natalie. Me. My name, my sacrifice, my money. You realize the nuclear option here, correct? Jordan asked, her eyes softening. If you drop these documents at the wedding reception, you are not just burning your parents to the ground. You are completely annihilating Natalie's pristine image in front of Spencer Ashford and his entire high society family. There is no coming back from that. The Whitmores will not just be embarrassed, they will be furious. I thought deeply about Spencer. I thought about the prestigious Ashford legacy, a family empire built strictly on legal integrity and a spotless public reputation. I thought about how a family like that would react to discovering their new daughter-in-law was a chronic, manipulative financial fraudster who had been lying to everyone for years. Spencer and his parents absolutely deserve to know the monster they are legally binding themselves to, I stated firmly. They're about to merge their lives with a woman who has been running a con on her own family. What is stopping her from doing it to them? Jordan did not offer a single word of pushback. She just fired up the copy machine and started making 3 identical sets of documents. For agonizing years of my income, I muttered to the empty room. And she smiled in my face while accepting the praise. She stood in that kitchen and lied to me directly. That evening, I scoured my digital archives, digging through every email thread I had ever shared with my parents. It took barely 20 minutes to strike gold. 3 years prior, when I had expressed mild anxiety about leaving my original property deed at their house, my mom had replied, "Stop worrying about the condo papers, sweetie. They're totally secure in the safe. We would never dream of doing anything with them without your explicit consent. You can trust us completely." A few weeks later, my dad had chimed in on the same thread. "Your property is yours alone, Cora. We are just holding the hard copies for safekeeping. You can trust us implicitly. We would never betray your trust." I hit print on both of those emails. I needed the receipts. I needed to show that they had promised me safety and then used that promise to rob me. Then, Jordan texted me a bombshell that made the blood rush to my ears. "Hey, I totally forgot about this, but I am actually still a ghost in your family's group chat from when I did your mom's estate planning years ago. They never kicked me out. I have my notifications muted, but I can read everything. I just checked it." She attached a terrifying screenshot. It was a text message sent by Natalie, dated exactly 4 weeks ago, the very day my parents hatched the plan to sell my home. "Honestly, guys, do not even stress about Cora's condo. You know she will not make a fuss about it. She never fights back. She will just roll over like she always does. She loves being the martyr." I stared at my phone screen, reading the cruel words over and over until they blurred. She won't make a fuss. She never fights back. She loves being the martyr. My own flesh and blood was not just turning a blind eye to my parents' felony. She was the one giving them the green light. She had practically guaranteed them that my spine was too weak to pose a threat. She banked on my lifelong conditioning of silence the same way you bank on gravity. I printed the screenshot and slid it into the explosive manila folder I was building. She had banked on my silence. And once upon a time, she would have been making a very safe bet. But that was before I realized the depth of their depravity. That was before I decided I was entirely finished playing the role of the quiet doormat. You essentially have 3 roads you can take, Jordan explained, mapping out the strategy on her legal pad. Path 1. We dial the authorities right now. Forging a property deed is a massive felony. Your parents will see the inside of a courtroom and potentially a jail cell. The district attorney will love this case. I pictured my arrogant father humiliated in handcuffs. I pictured my mother sobbing in a cramped holding cell. The image was vivid, almost satisfying. What is path 2? We stay entirely silent until they return from the honeymoon. We handle it via civil litigation behind closed doors. But by then, Natalie is fully entrenched in the Ashford family. They have unlimited legal resources. They will bury the story, protect her, and orchestrate a PR spin that paints you as the deranged, jealous older sister who tried to extort them. The Ashfords are lawyers. They know how to make inconvenient truths disappear. And path 3. Jordan stared dead into my eyes. You blow it up at the country club. You publicly confront the entire family before the marriage certificate is officially filed. You lay all the evidence on the table in front of 250 witnesses. You let the Ashfords decide for themselves what kind of family they are marrying into. Normally, the mere concept of causing a public spectacle at a wedding would have sent me into a panic attack. It violated every single rule of submission I had been taught. But the tectonic plates inside me had violently shifted. I was not the same woman who had accepted being invisible for 33 years. If I wait until after they cut the cake, they will control the narrative, I said slowly, the clarity washing over me. They will absolutely brand me as the villain. Natalie will be locked into millions of dollars, fully shielded by the Ashford name. The Whitmores need to know exactly what they are buying into before they sign that marriage certificate. Spencer deserves the truth, Jordan agreed. And so does his family. They have a right to know who they are welcoming into their lives. That night, I picked up the phone and directly dialed Mr. Peterson, the wealthy investor who had made the cash offer on my home. In a calm, measured voice, I explained the entire ordeal, the blatant forgery, the impending fraud investigation, and the undeniable fact that the true owner had never consented to a sale. I told him about the forged signature, the stolen paperwork, and the family conspiracy. The line was dead quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I am contacting my legal team immediately. I do not do business with fraudsters. Thank you for telling me the truth before this went any further. Within 48 hours, Peterson completely formally withdrew his massive cash offer. The escrow deposit was aggressively yanked back. The entire fraudulent transaction was terminated. My parents were not even aware yet. They were still running around town, finalizing the wedding of the decade, fully expecting a massive wire transfer that was never, ever going to arrive. The wedding was just 11 days out, and I had quietly lit a fuse that was burning straight toward their carefully constructed house of cards. I do not want to maliciously destroy their lives, I confessed to Jordan over the phone. But they're going to face the brutal reality of their actions. Every single one of them. They need to understand what they did. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my own bed, inside my own condo. The property was legally secure, still standing, still unequivocally mine. The morning sun streamed warmly through the bay window, casting peaceful shadows across my bedroom floor. The sage green walls glowed in the soft light. Somewhere on the other side of town, Natalie was likely sipping expensive champagne, surrounded by fawning makeup artists, totally convinced she had pulled off the greatest heist of her life. She probably thought I was crying in my apartment, defeated. My phone vibrated on the nightstand. It was a text from Jordan. The legal dominoes are set. Give them hell. I will be in the back row. I took a luxuriously long shower. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. I ate a real breakfast, eggs, toast, fruit, because I needed fuel for what I was about to do. Laid out on my duvet was the hideous bridesmaid dress Natalie had forced upon me, a sickly, washed-out shade of Pepto-Pink that aggressively clashed with my skin tone. It was a deliberately terrible choice. She wanted to ensure that absolutely no one would look my way during the ceremony. She wanted me to fade into the background. Resting right next to that ugly dress was a thick manila folder. Inside were 56 months of irrefutable bank statements, the original deed to my condo proving my sole ownership, the official cancellation notice from the buyer's attorney, the printed email chain of my parents promising to safeguard my documents, and the damning group chat screenshot of Natalie mocking my inability to defend myself. I looked at my reflection in the full-length mirror. The pink dress looked just as atrocious as I anticipated, but my appearance was completely irrelevant today. I grabbed the folder, tucked it securely into my oversized designer purse, and locked my front door. The woman staring back at me in the hallway mirror was not shaking. She was not furious. She was terrifyingly calm. They fully expected me to sip my Prosecco, plaster on a fake smile, and politely play my assigned role. They had no earthly idea that I was the new director of this movie. I fired up my car and headed toward the Ridgemont Country Club. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m., and I had a very important toast to deliver. The country club ballroom had been transformed into a jaw-dropping fairy tale. Thousands of imported white roses cascaded dramatically from the vaulted ceilings. A live 14-piece orchestra played soft classical music as the wealthy attendees found their assigned tables. Massive crystal chandeliers threw brilliant rainbows across the polished marble floors. There were 250 high society guests in attendance, 250 witnesses to the Bennett family's ultimate grift. I hung near the back of the room, sipping ice water, observing my parents work the crowd. My father was vigorously shaking hands, radiating the arrogant confidence of a man who had not committed a major real estate felony a few weeks prior. My mother floated gracefully from table to table, dripping in borrowed jewelry, laughing too loudly at every joke. "Oh, we are just so incredibly blessed. Both of our girls are just so giving," I overheard her gushing to Spencer's mother, Mrs. Ashford. "Natalie has practically been carrying our household finances for years. She is the most devoted daughter on earth. We would have lost our home without her. And Cora, well, Cora gave up her condo for the wedding. Such a generous girl." Mrs. Ashford offered a tight, polite nod. Mr. Ashford Sr., a towering, silver-haired powerhouse of a man, observed my parents with a calculating, intense gaze. He was a trial lawyer. He knew how to read people. And he was reading them. My fingers clamped tightly around the strap of my purse. Across the expansive room, Natalie finally locked eyes with me. She looked absolutely flawless in custom white silk and imported French lace. Her hair was piled in an elaborate updo. Her diamond earrings sparkled. She flashed me that exact same practiced, saccharine smile and offered a tiny, condescending wave. There was not a single ounce of remorse in her eyes. It was the serene confidence of a golden child who had never once paid a consequence for her actions. I watched as my parents cornered another group of wealthy relatives, loudly bragging about how my condo was a gracious donation from our oldest, effortlessly stealing the credit for a sacrifice I was being forced to make. They were building their social capital on my stolen equity. The actual wedding ceremony went off without a hitch. The spoken vows were sickeningly sweet. Natalie managed to squeeze out gorgeous, photogenic tears at the exact right moments. I just sat in my pew, quietly biding my time, the manila folder heavy in my lap. At 6 p.m., the extravagant dinner service commenced. 250 elites took their seats at massive tables draped in imported linens. I was seated at the primary family table right up front, resting my heavy purse directly on my lap under the tablecloth. My parents were practically glowing. Natalie looked like a triumphant queen. Spencer held her hand, staring at her as if she hung the moon and stars. The champagne was flowing. The orchestra was playing. The fairy tale was in full swing. Suddenly, my father stood up, clinking a silver spoon against his crystal champagne flute. A hush immediately fell over the sprawling ballroom. "Family," he boomed, his voice echoing perfectly through the professional sound system. "That is the ultimate reason we are gathered here tonight. Family is about sacrifice. It is about stepping up when things get tough. It is about everyone doing their specific part. And tonight, we celebrate the joining of two great families." My jaw locked so tightly my teeth ached. I could feel the folder pressing against my thighs. I want to take a brief moment to publicly honor the incredible people who made this spectacular evening a reality, he continued, pausing dramatically. First and foremost, to my beautiful daughter, Natalie. For the past several years, she has been single-handedly supporting this family financially. Her unyielding generosity kept a roof over our heads during our darkest hours. She never complained. She never asked for recognition. She just quietly took care of us. Natalie dramatically ducked her chin, playing the part of the incredibly humble saint. A warm murmur of intense approval rippled through the 250 guests. Mrs. Ashford actually dabbed her eye with a napkin. And furthermore, to Cora, my dad pivoted, scanning the front tables until his eyes locked onto mine. His smile was gigantic and utterly fake. Who offered the most unimaginably generous wedding gift a sister could give, the total sale of her own condo, just so Natalie could have the flawless wedding she always deserved. That is the kind of love that defines this family. Thunderous applause erupted. 250 pairs of wealthy eyes aggressively swiveled in my direction. They were fully expecting me to stand up, wave modestly, and dab a tear from my eye. Natalie actually stood up and performed a dainty little bow, openly accepting the thunderous applause for a combination of sacrifices she had literally zero part in. "Let us all raise a glass to the Bennett girls," my father concluded triumphantly, raising his flute high. The absolute best children a mother and father could ever pray for. The crystal glasses went up. The guests took a sip. Natalie basked in the stolen glory. Parents beamed like they had just won the lottery. And then I stood up. I did not smile. I did not wave. "Dad," I said, my voice projecting clearly without a mic, "would you mind if I said a few words to the crowd?" My father's triumphant smile aggressively twitched. A massive flash of panic crossed his eyes. But he was trapped. 250 elites were watching, and Richard Bennett would never willingly ruin a public spectacle by denying his daughter the floor. Of course, sweetheart," he stammered, awkwardly extending the wireless microphone. "The floor is all yours. Say a few nice words about your sister." I grabbed the cold metal handle. It felt incredibly heavy and incredibly right. "Thank you, Dad." I slowly pivoted, letting my eyes drag across the sprawling sea of confused, expectant faces. Since we are on the topic of massive family sacrifices, I actually have a few important details to add. The ballroom went terrifyingly silent. You could literally hear the ice melting in the water glasses. At the head table, Natalie's smug smirk instantly evaporated. The vibrant color violently drained from her flawless cheeks. She knew. In a fraction of a second, she knew her entire world was about to collapse. "Because I believe everyone in this room deserves to know the actual truth," I continued, my voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "The truth about where the money for this wedding really came from. The truth about who has been paying your mortgage. The truth about my condo." My mother violently lunged forward in her chair, gripping the expensive tablecloth like she was dangling from a cliff. Spencer Ashford narrowed his eyes, sensing the drastic shift in the room's energy. His intimidating father, Ashford Sr., slowly lowered his champagne flute and zeroed in on me with the terrifying intensity of a courtroom judge. I unzipped my purse and dramatically pulled out the thick manila folder. I have the physical, legal documentation to verify every single sentence I am about to speak. So I highly suggest nobody interrupts me. Hey guys, this is the absolute climax of the story. But before I drop the hammer on Natalie, I have to ask you, what would you honestly do in this specific scenario? Would you grab the mic and publicly annihilate your sister at her own wedding, or would you bite your tongue and handle it privately? Let me know your exact move in the comments. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now, because the fallout from this speech is absolutely nuclear. Just a moment ago, my father publicly thanked me for graciously giving up my condo, I stated, keeping my tone terrifyingly professional. The room was holding its collective breath. "I want to make something abundantly clear," I said, letting the silence stretch for maximum impact. "I did not give it to them." I paused, letting the words settle. "I did not sell it to them. In fact, I had absolutely zero knowledge that my home was even on the market until they called me laughing about it 3 weeks ago. I never signed a single document. I never authorized a sale. I never agreed to any of this. A collective, audible gasp ripped through the country club. Several older women at the front tables physically covered their open mouths. A few of Spencer's groomsmen aggressively leaned forward in their chairs. Phones started sliding out of purses. My parents secretly listed my property behind my back, I announced, raising the manila folder high into the air. They maliciously forged my legal signature on the closing documents. They stole my identity. They committed multiple felonies to pay for this wedding. Cora, what on earth are you? My father barked, his voice laced with venomous panic. He was half out of his chair. I explicitly said, "Do not interrupt me, Dad. Sit down." My mother looked like she was about to vomit. Mr. Ashford Sr. placed his hands flat on the table, his posture turning incredibly rigid. His eyes were fixed on me with laser focus. "I have the original, notarized property deed right here," I stated, pulling the heavy document out and displaying it. It clearly states my name, Cora Bennett, as the sole, independent owner. I bought that property with 9 years of my own blood and sweat. I never once authorized its sale. The signature on the closing documents is a forgery. I have handwriting analysis ready to prove it. Frantic whispering began sweeping through the 250 guests like a wildfire. Spencer Ashford was currently staring at his brand new in-laws with a look of absolute disgust. His jaw was hanging open. "But here is the fantastic news for me," I continued, pulling the next piece of paper. "A real estate transaction utilizing a forged signature is legally void. That is basic property law. I personally contacted the cash buyer, Mr. Peterson, last Thursday. Once I informed him of the massive felony taking place, he aggressively withdrew his offer. He wants nothing to do with this." I held up the official termination letter. "His massive escrow deposit has already been fully refunded. The sale is completely canceled. My condo is still mine." That is completely impossible," my mother shrieked, her voice cracking in half. The money. We already spent the deposit on the flowers. On the band. The $120,000 you were banking on to pay for this exact party?" I stared dead into her terrified eyes. "It is never arriving. The venue is going to want their money. The caterer is going to want their money. And you have nothing left to give them." Natalie frantically clawed at Spencer's tuxedo sleeve. "Wait, Spencer, what does she mean? What does this mean for the wedding bills? You said your family was covering the overages." Spencer violently yanked his arm out of Natalie's grasp. "It means my parents just wrote checks for a wedding that was funded by stolen money, Natalie. It means you lied to me. Again. It means my home remains entirely mine," I projected, turning the microphone directly toward my hyperventilating sister. "It was always mine, Natalie. And you were fully aware of the heist. You encouraged it." Spencer's mother stood up, her face white with shock. Mr. Ashford Sr. slowly pushed his chair back and stood up. The entire room instantly deferred to his commanding presence. He marched directly toward me, holding out a massive, calloused hand. "Young lady, may I please review those documents?" he asked quietly, his voice carrying the weight of decades in the courtroom. I handed him the explosive folder without a shred of hesitation. The massive ballroom watched in horrific silence as the legal titan flipped through the deed, the forgery evidence, the cancellation notice, and the bank statements. His stony expression never wavered, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Cora, I am begging you," my mother whimpered, tears finally spilling over her mascara. "Please, not in front of everyone. Not right now. We can fix this. We can figure something out." "Mom, this is the exact moment it needs to happen," I replied coldly. "Because unfortunately for you, there is an even bigger lie to expose. Something much worse than the condo." I turned back to the horrified crowd. My father also just spent a solid 2 minutes praising Natalie for her financial selflessness. He praised her for heroically paying their monthly mortgage to save them from ruin. He called her a saint. I locked onto Natalie. She looked like an animal trapped in a snare, her chest heaving. "Is not that the narrative you have been pushing, Natalie? For 4 years? That you were the one saving the family? Cora, Please stop, Natalie choked out, genuine terror radiating from her chest. Please. I am begging you. Not here. Not in front of everyone. We can talk about this later. Here is the absolute reality, I announced, reaching for the massive stack of bank papers Mr. Ashford was holding. For the last 56 months, I am the one who has been secretly paying our parents' $2,400 mortgage. My dad physically stumbled backward, knocking over his chair. What? That is not possible. Natalie told us she was handling it. Every single cent. I hoisted the massive brick of bank statements high into the air. 56 consecutive payments, totaling over $134,000 of my personal income. My name, my account, my sacrifice. I began passing the printed statements down the tables. Guests scrambled to look at them. Cora Bennett, printed undeniably at the top of every single transfer record. The dates, the amounts, the account numbers. Irrefutable proof. I turned the mic back to my sister. You snooped on my laptop years ago, Natalie. You clearly saw my automated email receipts. You knew exactly who was saving this family, and you ran to mom and dad and claimed it was you. You built your entire reputation on my back. I can explain everything. Natalie sobbed violently, her perfect makeup streaking down her face. I was going to tell them eventually. I just wanted them to be proud of me for once. You stole the credit for $134,000 of my grueling labor. My voice remained terrifyingly calm and final. Every single time mom bragged about you at church, every single time dad praised your maturity, every single time someone called you a saint, you just smiled and soaked it in. You are a thief. You are a fraud. You are not the person anyone in this room thinks you are. Spencer Ashford aggressively stood up. He looked down at his crying bride as if she were an alien species. Natalie, his voice was dangerously quiet, but it sliced through the room. Are you telling me you lied about your finances to me? For 4 straight years? You told me you were supporting your parents. You told me you were the one keeping them afloat. You used that to convince my parents you were responsible. Brandon, baby, please. She reached out for his waist, her hands clawing at his jacket. I did not mean to lie. I just wanted them to like me. I wanted your parents to think I was good enough. He took 2 massive steps backward, physically repulsed. Good enough? You are not good enough. You are a fraud. My parents just paid for a wedding that was funded by stolen money. What else have you lied about? I lowered the microphone slightly. I originally kept my payments a secret because I loved my parents enough to spare them the public humiliation of bankruptcy, I told the crowd. But I will not sit here and watch my sister build her perfect life on top of my drained bank account. I took a deep, shuddering breath. The silence was deafening. Effective immediately, my auto draft is permanently canceled. As of midnight tonight, the bank will receive notice that no further payments will be made from my account. My father's face completely collapsed. Cora, no. You cannot do this to us. The bank will seize the estate. We will lose everything. You literally tried to steal my only home. I fired back into the mic, and Natalie gladly took the credit for saving yours for 4 years. So, Natalie, since the entire world already believes you have been footing the bill, you can officially take over the payments tomorrow. Show everyone how responsible you really are. I turned to my completely broken parents. Strangely, the blinding rage had completely evaporated. I was just left with a hollow, crushing sadness. The weight of 33 years of invisibility settled on my shoulders one last time, and then lifted away. I loved you both enough to save your entire world in absolute secret, I whispered, my voice finally cracking. And neither of you loved me enough to even ask before you tried to destroy mine. You never asked me if I was okay. You never asked me if I needed help. You just took. I slammed the microphone down onto the table. The massive thud echoed violently through the sound system, feedback squealing through the speakers. I picked up my empty purse, turned my back on the head table, and began the long walk down the center aisle. From somewhere near the back exits, I heard Jordan's voice ring out proudly. That is my best friend. That is how you do it. A weaker person might have lingered to watch the absolute carnage unfold, to relish in the screaming matches and the frantic backpedaling. But my job was completely finished. The truth was out. The lies were exposed. The rest was up to them. The silence held for exactly 5 seconds after I dropped the mic. And then, the Ridgemont Country Club exploded. Total pandemonium. Hundreds of wealthy guests began aggressively whispering, pointing, and arguing. I saw a dozen cell phones whip out to record the chaos. The Ashford family tables were in an absolute uproar. Is it true? I heard Spencer yelling over the noise as I neared the exit. Did you fabricate your entire life to me? The mortgage, the charity work, the family support. I did not. I was going to tell you the truth, I swear. Natalie was screeching hysterically. I just wanted you to love me. For years. Spencer roared. You lied to your own parents for 4 years. You lied to me about who you were. You built our entire relationship on a foundation of fraud. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ashford Sr. corner my shrinking father. You swore to me that your family operated on absolute integrity, Richard, the billionaire growled, his voice low and dangerous. You swore this girl was trustworthy. You swore she came from good people. It is a massive misunderstanding, sir, my dad pleaded desperately. We did not know she was lying. We thought she was paying the mortgage. We thought she was helping us. She committed 4 years of financial fraud. Mrs. Ashford shouted, getting in my dad's face. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a sociopathic pattern. Your daughter has been running a con on everyone who loves her. Suddenly, Natalie shoved violently through her bridesmaids and sprinted after me, her heavy silk gown dragging wildly across the marble, her veil trailing behind her like a ghost. She grabbed my elbow just as I reached the lobby, her fingers digging into my skin. Cora, you psychotic bitch. You ruined my perfect day. You ruined my life. How could you do this to me? I calmly peeled her manicured fingers off my arm, one by one. No, Natalie. You ruined your own life the exact second you decided to start lying. You did this to yourself. I just told the truth. Her face contorted in horrific disbelief. She was genuinely short-circuiting. She had never, ever been told no in her entire sheltered existence. Behind her, I saw Spencer storming out a side exit, completely abandoning his bride at the altar. His parents were right behind him. My mother came sprinting up behind Natalie, completely out of breath, her expensive heels slipping on the marble. Cora, honey, please. Do not leave. We can sit down and negotiate this. We can work something out. You cannot just walk away from family. We should have negotiated 4 years ago, Mom, I said, locking eyes with her. Or perhaps 3 weeks ago, before you decided to forge my signature and steal my sanctuary. You are totally out of time. The window for negotiation closed when you laughed at me on the phone. I pushed through the heavy glass doors of the country club and stepped out into the crisp autumn evening. The valet stand was already swarming with confused guests demanding their cars. Jordan was leaning against her sedan, twirling her keys, a proud smile on her face. So, she smirked. How does the freedom feel? I took a massive gulp of the cool night air, feeling it fill my lungs. It feels like I finally woke up. Like I have been asleep for 33 years. We drove 3 miles down the road to a quiet, dimly lit diner, far away from the smoking crater of the Bennett family reception. Jordan ordered us 2 black coffees and a plate of fries. We needed the caffeine to process the adrenaline. You know, you still hold the nuclear launch codes, Jordan reminded me, stirring her mug. Forgery is still a massive felony. Identity theft. Fraud. If you want, I can have warrants issued by Tuesday. The DA would love this case. I wrapped my freezing hands around the warm ceramic mug. I thought about the ironclad evidence sitting in my purse. No, I said, surprising myself with my own certainty. I do not need them rotting in a jail cell. The public humiliation was the exact punishment they deserved. They have to live with knowing that everyone in their social circle knows what they did. That is worse than prison for people like them. And as for the golden child? Jordan asked, raising an eyebrow. What about Natalie? Natalie's fate rests entirely in the hands of the Ashford family lawyers now, I replied, taking a sip of the bitter coffee. And I have a feeling they're going to be ruthless. Spencer's father does not forgive fraud. He prosecutes it. My cell phone violently vibrated on the diner table. 41 missed calls from my mom, 23 from my dad, 18 from a frantic Natalie, a terrifying wall of desperate text messages. I calmly navigated to the settings, switched the phone to Do Not Disturb, and flipped it face down on the table. I am officially retiring from my role as the family fixer, I announced. Jordan raised her coffee mug in the air. To brand new beginnings. I clinked my mug against hers. To brand new beginnings. The shockwaves from the wedding speech decimated the family over the next 72 hours. I did not have to lift a finger to hear the gossip. It flowed freely through Jordan, my college alumni network, and the one cool cousin who had always secretly hated Natalie. Spencer Ashford never spent a single night with his new wife. He drove straight from the country club to his parents' gated estate and completely iced her out. By Tuesday morning, the ruthless Ashford legal team had officially filed for a rapid annulment, citing marriage executed under fraudulent misrepresentation. The papers were served to Natalie while she was still in her wedding dress at her parents' house. Natalie's prestigious PR firm caught wind of the scandal. Unsurprisingly, a company built entirely on maintaining honest public images did not want a viral fraudster on their payroll. She was immediately placed on an indefinite, unpaid leave of absence. Her boss called her personally to tell her not to come back until further notice. The church fallout was absolutely spectacular. Mrs. Patterson, the nosy elder who had witnessed my mic drop, successfully spread the entire story to the entire congregation before Sunday morning service. My parents were far too humiliated to even show their faces in the pews. They stayed home, curtains drawn. My phone was flooded with messages from distant relatives. I knew something was wrong with Natalie, one aunt texted. "Your parents always treated you so unfairly," wrote another cousin. "You are the real hero," said an uncle I had not spoken to in years. I just sat in my living room, inside my legally secured condo, and watched the city traffic below. I did not feel a wicked sense of victory. I just felt a massive, sprawling peace. The constant anxiety I had carried in my chest for 33 years had completely evaporated. My shoulders were no longer tight. My jaw was no longer clenched. Exactly 2 weeks later, an unknown number slipped past my blocked list. It was my father. Against my better judgment, I tapped the green button. "Cora." His voice was completely hollowed out. He sounded 10 years older, exhausted, defeated. We just received a certified letter from the mortgage lender." I did not offer a single word of comfort. I waited. "They are giving us exactly 60 days to vacate," he whispered, his voice trembling. "After that, they are seizing the property. Foreclosure. We are going to lose the house. Your mother is devastated. Have you tried asking your favorite daughter for a loan?" I asked, my voice completely devoid of emotion. "She claims she has been paying it for years. I am sure she has the funds stashed away somewhere." A massive, suffocating silence filled the line. She has absolutely nothing, Cora. She never did. We realize that now. She has been lying to us for 4 years. She has no savings, no assets, nothing." "I know, Dad. I have known since the beginning. I knew the moment you told me she was paying the mortgage that it was a lie. Why did not you just tell us it was you?" He suddenly cried out, a pathetic attempt to shift the blame. "Why did you let us believe her? Why did you stay silent for so long? Would it have honestly changed a single thing?" I fired back. "Or would you have just found a new way to excuse her behavior and demand more from me? Would you have stopped treating me like the invisible daughter? Would you have finally seen me?" He did not have an answer. He could not even form a sentence. "I am officially done saving you, Dad. You 3 need to figure out how to survive as a family. On your own. Without my money. Without my silence. Without me." "But Cora, you are family." "Not anymore," I interrupted. "Not the way I used to be. Not the way you defined it. I am done being your safety net." I hung up the phone and permanently blocked his new number. 2 months later, my childhood home hit the market as a desperate short sale. It was listed for a pathetic $260,000, practically begging for a buyer. It was scooped up in 9 days. Once the bank took their massive cut and the late fees were applied, my parents walked away with essentially zero profit. They were forced to rent a cramped, 2-bedroom unit in a cheap apartment complex across town. Ironically, it was the exact same cheap complex Natalie had been forced to move into after the annulment. The annulment was finalized with brutal efficiency. Spencer was reportedly already dating a brilliant junior partner at his father's law firm. And for the very first time in her pampered, cushioned existence, Natalie was actually forced to clock into a grueling job and pay her own massive stack of bills without a single person to bail her up. I did not gloat. I did not text them, "I told you so." I just moved forward. Then, roughly 6 months after the catastrophic wedding, a plain white envelope arrived in my mailbox. There was no return address, but I instantly recognized my mother's looping cursive. I considered shredding it, but my curiosity won out. "Dear Cora," the letter began. "I am so profoundly sorry. I am sorry for taking you for granted. I am sorry for blinding myself to Natalie's flaws and making you carry the weight of our failures. You deserved parents who fiercely protected you. We completely failed you. I do not expect your forgiveness, but I need you to know that the blinders are finally off. I see exactly what we stole from you. Your father's pride will not allow him to apologize, but mine is completely gone. You deserved so much better. You always did. Mom." I read the ink twice. I slowly folded the paper and placed it in a kitchen drawer. "It is a decent start," I whispered to the empty room. "But apologies written in pen are incredibly cheap. True change requires action." I was not holding my breath. Later that evening, I sat on my brand new living room sofa, a gorgeous, expensive piece I bought without an ounce of guilt, and watched the sunset through my bay window. My freshly painted sage green walls seemed to glow in the fading light. My condo finally felt like a home, completely cleansed of the toxic energy that used to haunt me. Life was genuinely thriving. I had finally secured that massive corporate promotion I had been grinding toward. That extra $2,400 a month, the money that used to vanish into my parents' black hole of a mortgage, was currently sitting safely in my high-yield travel fund. I had just booked a luxurious, 3-week solo vacation to Italy for the spring. For 33 years, I had been the family safety net. Now, I was finally spending my energy entirely on myself. My cell phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text popped up from an unblocked number. It was Natalie. "Cora, I am so incredibly sorry for everything I did to you. Can we please sit down and talk? I am in therapy now. I am trying to understand why I am the way I am." I stared at the glowing pixels for a very long time. A year ago, I would have frantically typed back a massive paragraph, desperately trying to smooth over the conflict and restore the peace. But the girl who used to write those texts no longer existed. I picked up the phone, took a deep breath, and typed a single, final response. Actions speak louder than words. Show me a changed person, and maybe we will talk. But not today. I hit send and tossed the phone away. Maybe she would undergo a massive personal transformation. Maybe she would not. Maybe my parents would eventually prove they were capable of actual, unconditional love. Maybe they were totally incapable. But the beautiful part was, it no longer dictated my happiness. I had completely stopped waiting for their validation to determine my self-worth. Family is not automatically guaranteed by blood. Family is built on a foundation of mutual respect. And if that respect is not a two-way street, then the street needs to be permanently closed. I looked around my quiet, peaceful, beautiful condo. It was mine. It would always be mine. And for the very first time in my entire life, I did not need a single person's permission to feel like I was enough. And that is exactly how I escaped the Bennett family circus. If you have ever been the quiet, dependable sibling who constantly gave everything while someone else happily stole the spotlight, I see you, and I stand with you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the ultimate boundary you finally set? What is the one line you will never allow another human being to cross again? If my story resonated with your soul, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a massive thumbs up, and check out the next incredible story linked right down in the description. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one.